Time for NFL Now's All Pro Fantasy, presented by Papa John's.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to All Pro Fantasy. I'm your host, Malcolm Jenkins. And this week, going into week 5, I figured it was time to show some love to the position that can make or break your game week in and week out. And I'm talking about the kickers, ladies and gentlemen. We have one of the better ones in the league with us right now from the Minnesota Vikings, Blair Walsh. Blair, how you doing, brother?
Good. How you doing, Malcolm?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you joining me. Let's just get right into it. I got some big questions for fantasy owners this week. Tom Brady, he's coming back. What does that mean for LeGarrette Blount and those who have him as their starting running back? Does his touches go down? Is he still a starter? Is he a flex? What do you think now that Brady's back? How does that affect LeGarrette Blount's productivity?
Well, I mean, the running back carousel in New England is always interesting. I do think LeGarrette has been the most consistent of all the running backs there. I mean, he's averaging about 4 yards per carry this year, which is a little under his career average of 4.5. I think he moves down to an RB2. I think with Brady back, you get more of the short passes involved, and guys like Edelman's numbers go up. New England kind of loves those short throws rather than running sometimes. So, I mean, you still have to start him if you have him because the running back position is so thin this year, but I think he moves back to that solid RB2 rather than the RB1 he's been playing at the first 4 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if you look at the first 4 games, the Patriots averaged 28.5 attempts passing a game compared to last year with 39 times with Brady at the helm. So I think those passes obviously are going to skyrocket. But I think it does mean that there'll probably be more quality runs for Blount, knowing that every defense that lines up is going to be worried about Brady in that pass. His numbers or touches might go down, but the quality of those runs might go up. I think he's still a solid flex player, especially if you get him against a nice matchup or a team that the defense is not that good. But he's definitely not going to be in that RB1 spot anymore now that Brady's back in the uniform.
I agree completely on that one.
All right, what is your take in Oakland? You got David Carr out there looking really good. They're putting up points, but it's Michael Crabtree who's finding the end zone and not Amari Cooper. So going forward in the long run, from a fantasy ownership standpoint, who do you think is going to be that number one guy out there in Oakland?
This is perplexing. I mean, the AC/DC connection has been there, but it's not as prolific as it was last year to start off. I think the Crabtree thing is interesting because of the sheer amount of touchdowns he's getting. I feel like Oakland's defense is kind of that bend but don't break. They're not giving up a ton of points, but they're giving up enough to where they have to have the offense come back and start slinging the ball around the field. I think Amari will eventually overtake Crabtree. I think just sheer talent-wise, he's a better player than Crabtree is. But Michael's been around the league for a long time, and guys like him find the end zone, so his 3 touchdowns have been impressive. But I'd still go with Cooper if I had to pick between the two. But they're definitely spreading it around.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you ask me as a defender which receiver I thought was better, I think Amari Cooper might be the better receiver. But for whatever reason, you had Crabtree in one game against the Ravens, scored 3 touchdowns. He added another one previous. So he's got 4 on the year, and Amari has 0. So for whatever reason, when it comes time to find that end zone, you see Carr finding Crabtree. And I don't think that that's going to slow down. When you start to build that relationship with a quarterback, they trust you more times than not. And I think, as they go, Amari Cooper will get involved. He'll find the end zone. But I really think that they'll both continue to have really good numbers. I don't think that Cooper will surpass Crabtree at the pace that Crabtree's moving right now. But I think they'll both still be solid guys to start for.
So if you had both, who are you starting? You starting Crabtree over Cooper, basically?
I'll probably put both of them in the lineup. But if I had to choose, I'm going to put Crabtree out there just because of their touchdowns in itself. They have similar or comparable yards. They got comparable targets. But the big difference is 4 touchdowns to 0. I'm not going to turn down those points.
See, I'd go the other way, though. I just think Cooper's due for those touchdowns, and he's more dynamic with the yards ability. But, I mean, you played defensive back, so you might know a little bit more than me on that one.
All right, so we got time for some starter sit questions. This is kind of my favorite part every week. Every week, I ask a question about a top player against this Broncos defense. And I'm not even going to consider asking about sitting Julio Jones after the game that he just had. But Matt Ryan is in question. Do you start him against that stifling Bronco defense?
See, the interesting thing with Matt Ryan is I think in the past 5 seasons, he's finished in the top 5 fantasy quarterbacks in the month of September every year. So he gets off to a fast start. That's kind of his MO. But, he's noticeably not as good on the road, from a fantasy perspective. And it's tough. I have him in one of my leagues, and I have him and Russell Wilson. And I think this week I'll go with Russell Wilson. But it's kind of hard not to start Matt Ryan at this point with the connection he has with Julio. I mean, he threw for 500 yards this past week. That's impressive on any team. And I don't know. His situation is the most perplexing for me out of all the quarterbacks. But he plays Denver, then Seattle, so those are not 2 matchups that you're wild about for sure. If you have him, I think you probably have to start him. But if you could find a better option somehow, or if you have that like a Tom Brady, if you drafted Tom Brady and then kind of added Matt Ryan late, I think you got to go Tom. But it's kind of up in the air.
Blair, I'm gonna be honest. I was quite impressed with that September stat. I don't know where you found that, but that's good research on your part.
Trying to be prepared.
For me, I'm going to sit him. I'm a defensive guy, and when I look at this Broncos defense, the guys that got up front in that secondary, they are giving up 169 yards passing per game. They've given up 2 passing touchdowns versus the 5 interceptions that they have on the season. And the quarterback passer rating is 61.3 going against them. And I don't really see that changing at all with what they got up front. I think Julio will still, have some production, but I don't know how much that'll translate from Matt Ryan and how much he'll do against this team. So if I can avoid it, I'll sit him if I have a different option. If not, then I think you just kind of ride the wave this week and hope that maybe they shock the world. But if I got a better option, I'm going to sit him this week.
Now, a follow-up on that. If you have Matt Ryan and you have a comfortable second guy, would you try to sell him right now, knowing that he starts off fast and kind of does fade away a little bit towards the end of the year?
No, I won't, just because he's got Julio Jones. And so when you got a receiver that's going for 300 yards receiving, even if you line up and throw it only to him all day, you got a chance to get some production. So hopefully they break that trend of starting fast and fading late. But I think right now it's a little too early to get rid of Matt, especially with the way he's playing. All right, next we got the Steelers, Le'Veon Bell versus this Jets run defense. They've given up second fewest rushing yards per game. I got to see the Steelers run game firsthand. They didn't have a great game against us running the ball, but I don't think it's really indicative of what they do as a team. They still average about 112 yards rushing a game, 4.4 yards per carry. So I think he's still a legitimate starter in my mind. He's going against this Jet defense that's really, really good against the run. But in his first game back, he has 170-something yards from scrimmage, whether it be running or catching the ball. I don't think they'll be able to shut him down. I'm still starting him. He's a very productive player who's obviously been sitting, waiting to get in the game. And after his first performance last week, I don't see how you put him on the bench this week.
Yeah, he's hungry, and for the record, the Steelers didn't do anything well against you guys, so that was an impressive win. I think with Le'Veon Bell, you just got to start him. He's so talented, and the running back position is so thin this year that I can't see any reason why you would sit him or not play him if you have him. Even if you're going against a run D like the Jets, you just kind of have to play the guy and, like you said earlier, ride the wave and hope that his talent overcomes the fact that Jets D is giving up very few yards in the run game.
Yeah, no disagreement there. All right, we'll stick with running backs. Your fellow Georgia Bulldog, Todd Gurley. The Rams are 3-1, but his owners are jumping with the panic button. They're jumping ship. Do you bench him? Do you trade him? Do you keep him rolling? What do you do?
I think you try to buy low on him. If somebody wants to get rid of him in your league, do it. Go get him. He's averaging 20 carries a game, which is a lot right now, and they're not shying away from him, even though he's not having a great first start here. I think the interesting stat I saw with him was that he caught 4 balls for about 60 yards this past week. So they're trying to get him a little more involved in the passing game. And obviously, I've watched this guy since he was in college, and he's had success at every level. And I think he just played in his 16th game overall. So, I mean, he just finished technically his first regular season worth of games. So, I mean, the guy is just super talented and has all the abilities in the world. I think he's got a favorable matchup this week playing the Bills defense. He'll be able to run on them and, score some points and just kind of stick with him. And if you can go get him in a league, please try to go get him.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. If I own them, I'm trying to get rid of them. They're desperate for a back, I'm trying to trade them off. I just think, 2.6 yards per carry, 54 yards a game. I mean, he's a great player, from a defensive standpoint. Getting ready for Todd Gurley you're going to have to come with your A game, but he's just in a bad situation when you talk about fantasy football and having, production and yards. It's just not there, and I don't see the situation getting any better. They're winning games; they're 3-1, but him in particular is just not going well for him. So, like you said, I think if I can get rid of him, get maybe a trade or somebody's the running back position is pretty thin. So there's probably a lot of desperate people out there looking for a decent running back. I think you can maybe leverage that, but I think I'm dropping weight. Yeah,
I'm a believer. I'm telling you.
All right, so let's talk waiver wire. Who are some of the guys that you see out there that you might be picking up this week?
I like Hunter Henry, the tight end from San Diego. Tight end's been a weird position this year. I think Gates is pretty unreliable right now when it comes to his health. You just don't know what you're going to get out of him. He's a fantastic player, but it looks like every week he might not play. And I think the Chargers are just going to keep throwing the ball. And so Henry, for me, is a nice pickup in the tight end spot.
Yeah, I'll stick with tight ends. And I'm not sure if he's available, if somebody stashed him on the bench. But Zach Ertz obviously coming back from injury this week. My teammate, and I know, over the last couple weeks with his absence, we've had Trey Burton and Brent Selleck really have some productive games. And those are touches that, presumably will be now going to Zach Ertz. Carson Wentz has been playing really, really well, and I'm sure he's excited to have his tight end back. So that'd be interesting to see if he's still out there and nobody, somebody cut him when he got hurt because, his injury was indefinite. They didn't know when he was coming back. He might be out there for you to go sneak and grab him. He's going to be a productive receiver or a tight end for us, and I think that'd be a steal.
That's insider info right there.
He announced it, earlier this week that he's feeling great. He's 100%. He plans on playing this week. So I'm not leaking any information. No insider.
Did he pay you for that promotion right there? That was nice. That was rehearsed. I like it.
That hurts, ladies and gentlemen. Go get him. All right. Who do you think you're going to sit this week?
I don't really have anybody that I'm wild about sitting besides Matt Ryan, like I talked about earlier. I think him against that defense is just, it's a tough matchup for him. I really don't like their running backs this week either. I know it's kind of in doubt whether Tevin Coleman's going to play with his sickle cell. But even if Devontae Freeman and him play, Denver's defense is, sorry to the Eagles, is the best in the league outside of ours too. Yeah. But, they're just scary to go against. And I think at home, I wouldn't mess with Denver or any of the players that are playing against them.
Yeah, I think for me this week, and it's completely selfish and just my own personal preference, I have Theo Riddick on my team. He's been my flex, and I got to sit him this week because he's playing us, and I don't expect him to have a big game against us. So it's nothing personal. He's a great player. He'll be right back in the lineup come week 6. But week 5, Theo Riddick is going to be a guy I'm going to have to sit.
I'm glad to see I'm not the only person who does this. I bench anybody who I'm playing against. I can't play anybody on the other team. I don't care if it's Aaron Rodgers. First of all, I wouldn't draft him. But
yeah, you can't go in expecting him to do anything.
I won't play him, man. They take my bench for the week.
I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but this is where our biased opinions can affect your team's production. So when it comes to those personal matchups, don't listen to us at all. Any kicker advice since I have you here?
You'll like this one. I like your guys' kicker, Caleb Sturgis, this week. He gets a ton of attempts. I think with that, with your rookie quarterback playing well, I don't think the red zone always goes the way you want with rookie quarterbacks. So I see about a 4 or 5 attempt a game from Caleb. It's tough with kickers. It's tough to predict, when they're going to get the attempts. But I feel like Caleb's been playing well, and your offense has been humming, so he'll get opportunities one way or the other, and he's my start for the week. So.
Okay. No offense, but I hope those kicks are all extra points and not field goals. For Caleb Sturgis. All right. Well, Blair, I appreciate you joining me, brother. It was a good time. Hopefully we get you back on. Ladies and gentlemen, this was All Pro Fantasy.